Welcome back. Thanks everybody for joining me for yet another edition of Electric Avenue's YouTube updates. I'm Mr. Rourke, your host. Only somebody of a certain age would know that joke. So, thanks again. And we're doing the new releases today for March 24th, 2023. Big new release week this week, and a couple things I want to touch on. And yeah, so here we are, just over 3 years since pandemic started, and I think this is probably about the most normal that things have been, although there are still people dealing with illness, and I'm sorry to hear that. So life, you just have to take it as it comes at this point, I think. So well, thanks anyway, and let's get started with some. Now, last week the big release was the U2 Live. I think that was that and like M83. Those were really great albums. M83 I thought was great. This week I'm going to sort of focus a little bit on this first album before I sort of get into the other stuff. And that is Depeche Mode, Memento Mori. And so this album is Depeche's first album in 5-6 years. It's sort of, I haven't heard it yet, but it's sort of a somber occasion in a way because it's the first since member Andrew Fletcher passed away. And that was sort of sudden last year. And while I don't know exactly how much musically he brought to the band after a certain point, he was sort of their business manager and kind of the guy that hung around and, kept the machine going. And, some would say, well, maybe he had sort of a mixed relationship with the band because he didn't work harder to keep Alan Wilder in it. I don't know. You would have to ask the band members those questions. But I'm really looking forward to this. The first single, Ghosts Again, was really quite a wonderful single. And so Depeche have a long sort of history. I've been following them for a long time, as a lot of people. And if you were back on the ground floor in 1981, you got this album, Speak and Spell, which I probably picked up in like 82 or 83. I was a little bit late to the party at first. I think the song that really hooked me was probably Everything Counts, which came out more like 83, but made me want to go back and hear this. And this was sort of a product of Vince Clarke, who left right after this record, formed Yaz, and then formed Erasure after that. So he went in sort of a more pop direction, and Martin Gore took over as the main songwriter. And things got sort of more dark in Depeche land. And 3 records I want to show eventually at the end of the 80s. We got, towards the end, Music for the Masses. This is the album with Never Let Me Down Again, Strange Love. It was sort of the album that pushed them into like the massive arena type touring band that they were, which was a really interesting development. Hadn't really happened for a band that was based in electronic music before that. And that's a really great album. And then of course that was followed by their magnum opus, Violator, which if you've never heard this album, go listen to it. It changed the face of electronic music, and I think it sort of said, like, you can make incredible albums with great songwriting and mixing it with electronic stuff. This is the album with Personal Jesus. Enjoy the Silence was a great big hit, and Policy of Truth, also World in My Eyes. There were at least 4 sort of charting singles from this. Halo is a personal favorite, and I love Waiting for the Night. What a beautiful vocal and performance on that record. So that should be up there if you're in like U2 Achtung Baby Land, or something where you like, there are certain iconic records. And then the one that followed that, I've really grown to love a lot more over the years, and this was Songs of Faith and Devotion, the album that really pretty much broke the band apart as Dave was suffering from drug addictions, and Martin had his own problems, and Alan eventually left because of the problems with this album and the tour and all. They just got too big, I think. This album had I Feel You, In Your Room, and Walking in My Shoes, a really great single there too. But yeah, even songs like Judas and One Caress, some of the Martin Gore sung songs on here, with Dave usually being lead vocalist, those were great songs too. And I think at the time this album was polarizing because everyone thought of Depeche as such a synthetic keyboard band, and were sort of purist and sort of staked their claim on that. And when Martin started doing little guitar riffs and Enjoy the Silence on Violator, that made people go, oh, that's interesting. And then when he started using the guitar a lot more on this record, a lot of people were sort of like, oh, what are they doing? You know, it's sort of like we used to, I don't know if kids really get this, but we used to have sort of like, people were very possessive of the bands that they loved. And it sort of goes way back to the Beatles and the Stones. If you loved one, you weren't allowed to love the other. The two groups did not intermix. Friendships were probably broken over those things. And it's the same thing with, Depeche sort of taking a leap into using guitars. There were even, pop bands in the 80s like Pet Shop Boys and Erasure. You were either sort of one or the other, and not too many people liked both. And I think that's sort of eased a lot now in hindsight. But music was such an indelible part of who you were as a person, and the music defined you more, even maybe more so than now. I don't know, because now a lot of it seems more like transient and fluid with all the social media stuff. But yeah, that was sort of a big thing with the way you dressed and all sorts of stuff. So anyway, kudos to Depeche. I'm sort of glad that Memento Mori is out, and I can't wait to hear it. All right, another big release this week, probably in a sense bigger than that as far as sales, I would think. Pink Floyd, Dark Side of the Moon live. This is a live recording from Wembley, 1974 at the Empire Pool. And it is, as far as I know, they recorded the entire album in a live run. So very cool. It's nice that Pink Floyd are making this official. I'm sure this was probably some sort of bootleg for a really long time, but cool sort of like adaptation of the artwork too. So get your Pink Floyd. There is a box set for that. It's ridiculously priced at $300. It features the remastered version of the album inside. Well, they did just remaster it, like maybe 7 or 8 years ago. So I think Bernie Grundman was in charge of the mastering process. So I don't really know how crucial it is to get the new remaster, but if you want it, you're going to have to let us know, because I'm probably just not going to have it in the store, although I'm sure other stores probably will. It's hard carrying things and having them just sit there if nobody wants them. Lana Del Rey, third big release of this week. Let's see if I get this album title right. Did you know that there's a tunnel under Ocean Boulevard? And apparently it was supposed to be much longer than that. So someone said, hey, that album title's too long. So she cut it down. But this has quite a few tracks. I mean, it's another sort of lengthy Lana record. There's this picture on the back, and you see there's a lot of tracks. This album features guests John Batiste, Bleachers, which is Jack Antonoff. He produced it. Father John Misty, Judah Smith, Tommy Genesis, and I don't know how to say SYML. Simmel? Go figure. But anyway, there's an actual duet, or Father John Misty's featured on Let the Light In. So there's new Lana out today. She's rather prolific, actually. She's had quite a few albums. This one I'm going to cover the corner so you can't see what's going on there. But anyway, this is the sort of limited indie pressing, and these are extremely limited, so don't be hurt if you can't get one, because I think I ordered at least a dozen, and they're like, you're getting one. Everybody's getting one. So, ridiculous. But get out and get your Lana. Hey, Fall Out Boy. Their new record, So Much for Stardust. This is on Coke bottle green vinyl. This is limited. This was also heavily allocated. I think we ended up getting 3 or 4 of these, maybe. But anyway, this has a song featuring Ethan Hawke. So I was not aware that Ethan Hawke was a singer and whatever. So you might want to give that a spin. Nickel Creek, their first album in 9 years. And it says this is the confetti yellow vinyl. And yeah, I think that, that's sort of cause for celebration in Americana circles because it's been so long and they're a great band. Okay, well, more reissues. So I've already shown you Dark Side. The other big reissue this week, which is very cool, it's the 50th anniversary of Elton John's Honky Chateau, one of his best albums, I think. And this one is the limited indie exclusive, and it's printed. Oh, I don't know if it's indie. Oh, I think it is, but it doesn't say it here. It's the 180 gram gold vinyl edition. So this is the basic album pressed on gold vinyl. Interesting, they sort of got rid of the flap that was on the back, which was probably a good idea because it was just an added expense, I'm sure. And all it did is, every time I see that flap on a used record that comes in, it's pretty much falling off anyway. Or there's this version, which is the double vinyl. So that one is the gold vinyl. This one's black vinyl, but it's a double. And this features an extra LP of session demos, Honky at the Chateau, plus an 8-page booklet with extra liner notes and such. So, there's like 2 different versions of this. And it's probably good that they're putting it out because I'm telling you right now, 90% of the copies I see of Honky Chateau are beat. The ones that come in used. That album was played a lot back in the day by people who loved it. So, all right. Elvis, another live record, Elvis Live 72. The last Elvis live that we had was at Madison Square Garden. I believe that was 1976. That was made by Music on Vinyl. This is, I believe, RCA. Yeah, Sony Legacy, RCA. This is sort of Elvis in that return prime. He's got the great outfit on, and he's doing Proud Mary, followed by How Great Thou Art. You know it's going to be a good show, so that's exciting. There's a lot of good releases this week. Cheap Trick, Authorized Greatest Hits. Now, a lot of people, if you're a big Cheap Trick fan, you might have all of these songs somewhere. And this has been out on CD, but it's kind of nice to have it on vinyl if you're more of a not passive, but you like Cheap Trick, but you don't need every album. This is a way to get a lot of the songs together. I Want You to Want Me, Surrender, Dream Police. It even goes up through, like, here we've got She's Tight, The Flame at the end, the single version. It's kind of cool to get that on vinyl. So Cheap Trick fans, you're going to want that. Okay, another reissue. And this, again, super limited. Bob Marley's Legend. Many people have this record. This actually was made at Tough Gong in Jamaica. They did a sort of series of these. I think they only made like 1,000, maybe 1,500 of these. So this will probably be gone by the time you see this video. They did his whole catalog of island stuff. And I was looking yesterday and it was already completely out at the distributors. So those might be flipper things that you'll have to look for online. But I don't really understand why they're being done in Jamaica if Tough Gong is that much of a better pressing plant or what. It maybe because the master tapes are there that, I have no idea. Maybe another YouTuber could answer that question for you. This is really cool. Dance Craze, a ska sort of 2-tone box set from, this was out in the early 80s, I believe. Very early, or maybe late 70s. I think it was early 80s. This is a deluxe edition. expanded to include the full previously unreleased 27-song film soundtrack, plus the original 14-track album. So that's kind of a big deal, right? It's not cheap. It runs about $55, but you get the point. All right. Not like Record Store Day isn't coming up, right? Hey, Grantley Buffalo fans, there's Fuzzy and Mighty Joe Moon. Both of those have finally been reissued. So if you like Grantley Phillips, these were great sort of early 90s. I want to say they're sort of alternative records because they were kind of on major labels, but singer-songwriter, alternative stuff, great stuff. And I've already had people asking for those. So Caroline Rose, her new album, The Art of Forgetting. She's somebody who I think each release keeps getting more and more intriguing. And so hopefully this does well for her. She's on New West Records now. So, but that's interesting sort of cover image for her. Oliver's are interesting. There was the one where she had several cigarettes shoved in her mouth. It was kind of bizarre. All right, this is quite interesting. A Rouge Aftab, I think I'm saying that right. VJ Eir, I don't know if that's correct. Shazad Ismaili, I don't know if that's how you say that either. I'm just saying that's the best I can do. I'm not so great with the Urdu and all of the Arab languages, but Love in Exile, and it's sort of like Arabian jazz kind of stuff. So it is released on Verve Records. Vijay is playing a Steinway, and Arouge does the vocals. So that looks very interesting if you're into kind of like avant-garde jazz or like jazz that's outside the box. The Kinks with yet another collection. I think that, you know, RCA or BMG is really, they're trying to plumb the Kinks vaults, pump them up. I mean, they deservedly so. They should be mentioned with the Beatles, the Stones, and the Who. I think the Kinks are incredible. Had a long career, supposedly working on a new album. Hopefully it's done soon because they're not getting any younger. I'm sure they know that. But this is called The Journey Part 1. And so there will be a Part 2, I assume. This is a double vinyl. Original band recordings includes 8 top 20 hits, key album tracks, singles, and B-sides. Features Waterloo Sunset, You Really Got Me, Celluloid Heroes, Supersonic Rocket Ship, Dead End Street, Death of a Clown, All Day and All of the Night, compiled by the Kinks. Track notes by Ray and Dave Davis and Mick Avery. I do know how to say Dave Davis or Ray Davis now because everyone says Davies, and I've seen enough videos where that's been corrected just because there's an E in there. That doesn't make it right. Iron and Wine, Laurie EP. This is Laurie McKenna songs. Not Lorena McKenna, it's Laurie McKenna. Great singer-songwriter. Gets the tribute treatment on a limited edition sky blue vinyl. Some more reissues. Basement Jaxx Remedy. This is on gold vinyl, I believe. Debut. And Rudy is also available. Another great album. Just hasn't shown up yet. But this one is the one that featured Red Alert. Red Alert, it's a catastrophe. Great song. If you heard it, you might know it if you were a 90s kid. It had a lot of like funky bass and whatever. NSYNC. Well, what else can I say about these guys? 25th anniversary features I Want You Back, Tearing Up My Heart. God Must Have Spent a Little More Time on You. I feel like there's other songs I must know from this, but yeah. They played this well. I don't need to say anything about it because I think if you lived through the era, you couldn't escape it. Granddaddy, The Software Slump. It's a reissue on spring green and milky clear vinyl. This album sort of goes in and out of print a lot, and so you got to grab it when you see it, I think, if you're a fan. All right, another one that I don't see very often, Sharon Van Etten's Tramp gets a reissue. Sharon's career has really sort of taken off since this album came out, what, about a decade ago? Let's see. It says features an unreleased track from the Tramp sessions. This is Too Right. And yeah, exclusive essay by Aaron Dessner. Aaron, well, one of the Dessners from the National. You probably would know from his work with Taylor Swift now. So anyway, yeah, Sharon, cool album. Well, Nancy and Lee, Nancy Sinatra, Lee Hazelwood. This is Nancy and Lee again. Last year they put out, reissued the first record, and then this year we're getting the follow up. Let's see. I don't know what to say about this, except this does have the song Machine Gun Kelly on it, which sort of became infamous for other reasons later on. Another John Hyatt, Crossing Muddy Waters, the great John Hyatt. There were 3 albums that were already reissued, and then this one is the 4th. Yeah, I would pick those up. If you're interested in John Hyatt, I wouldn't wait on these too long, because I don't think they made massive quantities of them. So, great blues record, Junior Kimbrough's Most Things Haven't Worked Out. Isn't that the truth? And this is the red and black vinyl 25th anniversary edition. Junior's no longer with us. Yeah, this features the song Burn in Hell. And I'm leaving you, baby. So anyway, felt like his career was sort of really just taking off, and then it was cut short. UFO, I think I've maybe shown this before, but this is a different pressing on double purple vinyl, Werewolves of London. It's a live record. I don't really know much about it past that, except it's on that Cleopatra label. All right, a few CDs and other things to show. By the way, there's Fall Out Boy. I do have a cassette of that. CDs, New Bouncing Souls, 10 Stories High. This is their first album in like 7 years, I think. So that's floating around. A couple of blues records, Eric Bibb's Ridin'. Eric Bibb, sort of a acoustic jazz or acoustic blues kind of guy. Allie Venable, she's a little more electric blues, I think. Real Gone is her album. This actually features guests from Buddy Guy and Joe Bonamassa, 2 top-notch blues people. And Cecile McLaurin Salvant, really important new jazz singer, jazz artist. And gosh, I love these photos. The images are really cool. Let's see, I can't remember the name of this album, and it's all sort of covered up. Anyway, I think it's something sort of French. I can't remember. She's an interesting artist, cross-cultural, and yeah. So that's really the new releases that I have to show this week. Next week is the Boy Genius week, so that's why I sort of have this sitting here, is that Phoebe Bridgers, Lucy Dacus, if I said that right, and Julian Baker, that's their sort of EP. So they're finally getting a full-length album. I think that's really heavily anticipated. So the songs are already out there. I think people are really like vibing with them and love that. And there's a new Pornographers featuring Nico Case, and a new Crazy Horse project with Neil Young singing a little, but Nils Lofgren and the other guys actually singing too. That's also next week. King Gizzard Laminated Denim, and a Who orchestral live record. So there's a lot of stuff coming, guys, and Record Store Day is creeping ever so closer. We are pretty much about a month, 4 weeks out from Record Store Day now. So hopefully you're like getting your plans together, anticipating what you're going to do. And it's very exciting. So, yeah, I don't know. It's almost overwhelming trying to get all of the information to you in a short enough amount of time that you're not just getting completely bored by everything I'm saying. So I really appreciate the views. Thank you for joining me again. And I'll see you around the shop sometime soon. And yeah, get out and get some new releases. There are some really great things. There were great things last week too. So we're not at a shortage of new stuff right now. All right. Take care. Thanks. Have a great weekend. Peace.